Good morning, and welcome to another Ifa Temple service with Okanranso de Temple here in Miami, Florida. My name is Baba Anthony, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. Let us begin our morning with our morning prayers. Ashe. Alolo Omi, cool, peaceful water, pure, tranquil water. This was the Ifa cast for Oromila when he was going to take Olomi Tutu on her cool water as his wife. Ifa says it is taboo. Irigiala will never allow Olomi Tutu to die a cruel, cheap death. Olomi Tutu and death have entered into a covenant. Cool road, cool home, cool Eshu. Ashe. Ibashe Akamara, Ibashe Olodu Mario Bashe de Kae, Ibashe to all the Ramon on the right hand side of Olodumare. Ibashe to all the Ramon on the left hand side of Olodumare. Ibashe to Oromila Eledi Queen. Ibashe to Eshu Abara. Ibashe to my Luro, Jesus Montero. Ibashe to my Oyubono Miguel Avila. Ibashe to my Baba Ifa, Ifa Colore. Ibashe to my mother, Cecile Smith. Ibashe to my father, Stephen McFarland. Ibashe to all my brothers and sisters in Ifa and Orisha who have supported me and shared their knowledge with me. Ibashe to my wife. Ibashe to my children. Ashe. Ogunda Warren. The ocean is filled to the brim. The lagoon is filled to capacity. Alasan's going to our son. Alasan's going to our son. The owl at the top of the rock. They always thought of the matter realized it was no longer favorable. They used their mustaches to cover their faces and spread their beards firmly over their chests. These are the declarations of Ifa She traditionalism, and to the head of every oral cult in Ileife. What is one She? Olodumare is one She. It is She we are the people before pleasing in Orisha. Ori is one She. It is She with the people before pleasing in Orisha. Mother is one She. It is She with the people before pleasing in Orisha. Father is one She. It is She with the people before pleasing in Orisha. Female gender organ, a male gender organ is one She. It is Sheshe with people pleasing in Orisha. Please let us appease these Sheshe. It is Sheshe with people before pleasing in Orisha. Sheshe is the father of all the tutu. It is Sheshe with people pleasing in Orisha. The Sheshe of my mother's lineage. The Sheshe of our father's lineage. It is the Sheshe with people pleasing in Orisha. Ifa, I come to ask for the support of our mother and father's lineage and support of all of us, so that any challenges that we may face, that they come to us easy because we have the support of our ancestors and the beauty of them. Oh, Orumila says, let us be thankful. I say we need to be thankful. They asked the rats, fish, birds, and beasts to be thankful. They all asked why. Orumila responded, because of gratuitous feeding and drinking, which you all enjoyed. The rats, fish, birds, and beasts said there was no need to be thankful. Consequences of ingratitude is the glorious death of rats, fish, birds, and beasts. Orumila says, let us be thankful. I say we need to be thankful. They asked the human being to be thankful. The human beings asked why. Orumila responded, because of gratuitous feeding and drinking, which the human beings enjoyed. It was only human beings that said there was a need to be thankful. Ifa, I've come to show my gratitude. I've come to show my gratitude for all good things that have been done. For all good things, in support of my family, in support of our temple, in support of all positive notions, all positive things that we've done. All of our members out there watching, I ask that we do the same. We show our gratitude to Ifa. We show our thanks for support and all that we have accomplished in our life thus far. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Awa dupe, awa bure, awa dupe o, awa bure, adupe ana wa obode koribo olodumare, awa dupe, awa bure, awa dupe o, awa bure. Adúpẹ́ àná wa ó bọ̀rẹ̀ torí bọ̀ orí ẹ̀mí àwa dúpẹ́ àwa bùrẹ́ àwa dúpẹ́ o àwa bùrẹ́ adúpẹ́ àná wa ó bọ̀rẹ̀ torí bọ̀ èrò mọ̀lẹ́ àwa dúpẹ́ àwa bùrẹ́ Awadupe o, awabure. Adupe ala o a bore tori bole gunosa. Ashe. Hirosoni Tutu. Pounded again without soup can be difficult to consume. This was D5 category Tutu, child of Abani Abram. He whose attitude is not acceptable. He was full of bad character. He whose bad attitude has prevented him from coming to Ifa's domain. Now we come to beg on behalf of Ututu. We come to solicit on behalf of Ututu. Father, please be patient and forgive this provocation. We come to beg on behalf of Ututu. Olumi responds, those who come to beg on behalf of Ututu, those who come to solicit on behalf of Ututu. How many children does Ifa have that he would cast one out? Those who come to beg on behalf of Ututu. Ifa, I am praying to you, Baba, to support us again in all of our endeavors, whatever challenges we face in life, whatever unacceptable behavior we have found ourselves doing, that you support us in all of those moments to help us see the lessons and to change our lives for the better so that we can live in the domain of Ifa. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Ofumeji, Hepa, Odu. The King who molds human beings, the King who molds human destiny, the King who supports and assists human beings, the King who molds human character, the King who molds human beings is the name given to Orishala. The King who molds human destiny is the name given to Orunmila. The King who supports and assists human beings is the name given to one's Ori. The King who molds human characters is the name given to Olodumare. Oranku Meiji. I call you by your formula, which is known as Epa Odu. You are the ones who help in organizing one's life for one's life to be fruitful. You are the ones who help in organizing one's life for one's life to be rewarding. Please come and help me organize my life. For it to be blessed with wealth. For it to be blessed with children. For it to be blessed with all the array of life. It is impossible to see the depth of the sea. Do not let people see evil in me. Do not let me be disgraced. It is impossible to see the depth of the river. All what I am doing, do not let people dig up evil in me. Orangu Meiji, I call you by your formula, which is known as Epa Odu. Please let my matters be fruitful and rewarding. Ashe. Ifa, I call on the Odu of Ofu Meiji and asking for support of the deities so that I can come to share the message of Ifa this morning without challenges. I come to share the messages of Ifa without people seeing a negative side to me. I come to share the messages of Ifa with positivity in people's life. I ask to continue God to protect and bless us in all of our endeavors. Ashe. Oh, Shetura. Tiny other feet of Tubu. Scribe a chameleon. It's not big enough to use his headgear. Had been enough to use his headgear, and I've taken home and adorned my head with it. This was the Ifa Castle Wude Lama going on spiritual mission to Egypt, Bulan. We call him the locust bean seller and pay her money. We call him the salt seller and pay her money. We call him the Wude Lama for respect, and he's a good man. Oshe Wude La is a good award. Oh, Shetura. Kekeni Bagisa, the actor stripes the tree, is the one who cast Ifa for Orunmila when he's going to receive Iba and Ashe from Olodumare. If an Awo says that we shall be wealthy, we shall surely be wealthy. Kekeni Bagisa, in the mouth of an Awo resides Iba and Ashe in the mouth of an Awo. If an Awo says that we shall have good spouse, we shall certainly have good spouse. Kekeni Bagisa, in the mouth of an Awo resides Iba and Ashe in the mouth of an Awo. If an Awo says that we shall have good children, we shall certainly have good children. Kekeni Bagisa, in the mouth of an Awo resides Iba and Ashe in the mouth of an Awo. If an Awo says that we shall have all the array of life, we shall certainly have all the array of life. Kekeni Bagisa, in the mouth of an Awo resides Iba and Ashe in the mouth of an Awo. Ashe. Ashe Orisha lẹ́nu mi o, Ashe Orisha lẹ́nu mi. Bọ́bọ́ tí mo bá máa mọ̀ wí o, èrò mọ̀lẹ́ ó bà, Ifá ó bá o, Ashe Orisha lẹ́nu mi. Ashe Orisha lẹ́nu mi o, Ashe Orisha lẹ́nu mi. Bọ́bọ́ tí mo bá máa mọ̀ wí o, èrò mọ̀lẹ́ ó bà, Ifá ó bá o, Ashe Orisha lẹ́nu mi. Timo duro, Timo sure, Timo bere, Timo sure, Timo kule, Timo sure, Timo joko, Timo sure, Kire Timo suori tibo. Let us hold our oris. Ori eni laude eni ori eni laude yeni. Moji lowuro mofo mori orieni laude yeni. Orieni laude yeni orieni laude yeni. Moji lowuro mofo mori orieni laude yeni. Bobo ire itasu Ipa ogba oloru Àti gbàgájú Ipa ogba oloru Ó ṣe àwòrán Ifa ti fọ́. Ifa, as we end our morning prayers, again, I'm asking for all of the challenges that we may be facing, challenges of death, challenges of sickness, challenges of loss, challenges of contention, challenges of confusion, that they all be pushed aside. I'm asking for your support as we listen to the messages this morning to bring in the idea of long life, the idea of good spouse, the idea of good children, the idea of all erase become in support us this morning as we move throughout our day. Ashe. Good morning again. My name is Baba Anthony, and I am with Okanran Day Temple here in Miami, Florida. So I do want to start with just a few announcements before we hop into our message this morning. And I'll make these announcements again at the end. First things first, we just completed our festival Odun Ifa. That's our celebration of our first year of being a temple here in Miami. And I think it went well for our temple members. We had 8 families participate with us in the temple Odun, and so that was wonderful. So what we're going to be doing this next year is focus on growth and coming together as a temple in person. And I would really love it if you're here in Miami or listening and you're here in Miami, or at least you're close enough to make it down to us here in Miami, that you come and join us for a live temple service. There's an opportunity for us to learn and speak Ifa together, and then even discuss the messages that we heard following the temple services, so we can get a better sense of clarity. And then we can fellowship as Ifa followers, coming together as Ifa followers. So I highly encourage you to reach out if you'd like to attend our temple services in the future. Please join us in the future. Ashe. So let us talk about the topic for today. What Ifa says about being a good friend, right? What Ifa says about being a good friend. When I think about daily life as an Ifa devotee, one aspect I think about often is, am I being a good friend? Am I being a good friend to those around me? My spouse, my siblings, to the people in the public, my wife, my parents, am I being a good friend, right? When I was young, I'm not really sure I understood what that meant. Especially nowadays, it gets really challenging because on social media, we have many friends, right? We may, on this platform, we may have 1,000 friends there. This platform, a few hundred friends there. This platform, so many friends there. But that's a challenge because we don't reach out and communicate to all of those people all the time. We don't know what's going on in their lives, right? Well, a friend, we know, can easily be defined as a person whom one knows and who we have a mutual bond or affection with. Now, the question is, of the 1,500 friends we have online, right, do we know everyone well? And do we have a bond or a mutual affection with those folks? So let's take it a step further. are any of those folks good friends? Right. Now we can define good friends as someone who we trust, someone who is there for us, someone who can help us in the time of need. I'm sure many of us think about this often. We have 1,000 friends on these social media platforms. Yet, how many of them can we really call? And how many of them can depend on us? That's something we should think about often, right? And if I asks us to think about this, how are we treating those folks who are around us? Are we good friends? Can people depend on us? Right? This is the challenge. I believe many of us have thousands of acquaintances, not necessarily good friends. And I believe Ifa wants us to establish relationships with people so that we have good friends. Right. So let's think about ourselves and how Ifa points us to uh, the direction of becoming good friends with others. Right. We can't really control what other people do, but we can certainly work on our situation. And just so you know, this is a reason. When I was thinking about this, is the reason I want the call for us to come together as temple folks, right? As Ifa people to discuss Ifa, because we can be supporters of each other, right? So let's go into our first Odu of the morning, and it comes from the Odu of Ogbe Ate. Ogbe on the right and Irete on the left. Ogbe Ate. Ashe. Genuine human beings are very scarce. Human beings are very difficult. This was the declaration of Ifa to the 401 Irumole when going to enter into a solid covenant with Oromila by the riverside. They were planning to start contribution. They were advised to offer Ebo. So here we have an interesting story. An interesting story. We have all of the 400 on Irumole coming together. From time to time, they came together to make a contribution to the home of Oromila. Right. The idea was that whoever's turn it was to collect the items for contribution, they would prepare food and drink for all of the Irumole. They thought to themselves that this would bring together their relationship. This would create a bond amongst them. They were experiencing something together, right? And then it allowed them to see each other from time to time. They were developing those bonds, developing that mutual affection for each other. So as they got together, this particular year, as they got together, they had all decided that they were going to host the event at Oromila's home, right? And Oromila said, wonderful. I'll get everything ready. I'll get all the drinks and the foods. And Oromila took this task very importantly this year, right? He wanted to make sure that all of his friends were happy. All of the Irumole were happy. He wanted to make sure that they all came there and they felt safe. So Oromila took his time and gathered all of his students, and he discussed with them each of the different Irumole, all of their taboos, all of the things they love to eat, and he made sure to tell them to go out and grab the things that he needed for this event. Food, drink, everything you can imagine. So his students went out. They started to look for all the special items for the Irumole to make sure that everybody that attended this event would feel taken care of and will feel supported by Oromila. Ashe. Now, here's the challenge. Unknown to Oromila at the time, all of the Irumole had come together to embarrass Oromila. They found themselves in a place where Oromila was very popular. right? They thought that, even though he knew so much, he thought he was better than everybody else. They had all of these notions that, he's getting too popular, he's getting too big for his britches. He needs to calm down. And we need to show him he needs to calm down. Right? I'm important too, is what they said. Well, they created a plan. And their plan was to boycott Orumila's party. The plan was not to show up, and they wanted to embarrass Orumila and to have all of the preparations, that all of the hard work, all of what he was doing to get ready for all of these Irumole to go to waste. So they set their plan in motion. So here comes the day of the event. Orumila students were working hard. They were all over the place looking for food for Obatala, food for Oshun, food for Shango, food for Ogun, for everybody, making sure that all of their special items that they needed were there for them, so that when they came to the party, they would be happy. Now, they worked hard, getting everything ready, setting everything up. By midday, Orumila sat down and said, okay, it's time. Now we just have to wait for our friends to arrive and we can all celebrate each other together. So he sat and rested for a moment. His home was quiet. He was sitting and waiting. He's like, thinking to himself, it's getting a little bit late, mid-afternoon. He says, where is everybody? He's like, I don't know what's going on. I wonder what's going on. I hope everything is okay. I hope they didn't meet with challenges, because none of the Irumole at this point had showed up. Time moves on. Gets to later part of the evening. Now Orumila is very worried. He sends out his students, his children, to call all of the Irumole to come to his home, to let them know that everything was ready and they should get started. Well, his students went out looking for the Irumole, and they were nowhere to be found. This was a problem for Orumila. He was like, what's going on? What happened? What? They're not at their homes. They can't be found. Again, he's still worried, but he starts to get to a point where now he's a little bit agitated. He doesn't know what to do and how to approach it. Right? So while he's sitting in his home in a state of confusion and honestly being a little bit angry, Eshu Odara had arrived at his home. He greeted Orumila, but he could see that Orumila was in another place. His mind wasn't in a place to have a good time. Right? He took Eshu Odara to his backyard, to his space where everything was set up, and he's like, look, I have everything ready for everybody. Where are they? Eshu says to Orumila, he says, Baba, all of the Irumole, had acted like they were going to be here in support of you and support of each other for this party. But they hatched a plan where they wanted to embarrass you. And they wanted to see everything that you do go to waste. Orumila felt sad, right? He was in a place where now he's like, what am I going to do? What did I do to deserve this? I've only shown nothing but love and support for all of the other Irumole. Eshu Odara promised Orumila that their conspiracy would fail. So what does Eshu do? Eshu goes into Orumila's shrine room, and he took one of his covers, right? Eshu goes out and transforms himself into a masquerade. And he finds himself moving throughout the towns where all of the followers of all of the Irumole lived. right? So he's like, well, I can't find the Irumole. Let's go get their followers. So Eshu Odara goes out in this masquerade and he starts saying, hey, everybody, come on. We're going to take you to the best party that's ever existed. Come on over to Orumila's house and we're going to show you how to have a good time. Oh, well, they were all excited. All these followers of all the other Irumole were excited. So they found themselves following the masquerade. They reach Orumila's house. They see the amazing spread that's there, and they all start to party and have a good time, right? Orumila is looking around. Okay, he's like, yes, this is what I wanted. I'm sad that my friends couldn't be here, the other Irumole, but I want people to enjoy this and to be happy. So what happens next? Now the Irumole, like they're coming out of their hiding, they're going to the homes of their followers to meet and greet and be with them. But as they get to their homes, what happens? None of their followers are there. They couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it. They were looking around, they were looking. So they heard that they needed to go to Orumila's house to find all of their followers. Can you believe it? So, heads hung a little bit low, the Irumole started to make their way over to Orumila's house. There, they find all of their followers partying and having a good time. They look around and they see all of their favorite foods. They see the dancing. They see the excitement. They see the happiness on everyone's face. Right? They joined in with their devotees and started celebrating and eating the food. Orumila said to the other Irumole, what happened? What did I do to deserve this? Right? Why did you fail to show up? I put my heart and soul into everything here that I've come to provide for you. They all hung their heads low. They had disappointed Orumila, someone who had done something so wonderful for them. And this is the thing they've done every year. But why now did they take this time to lash out against Orumila? All the Irumole found themselves feeling so bad that they ended up leaving without even saying goodbye. So, here's the story. Sorry, it was a long story, but here's a story about friends. Right? Here's a story about friends. And I'm going to recite the verse for you just so you know how the verse goes and ends, right? Genuine human beings are very scarce. Human beings are very difficult. This was the declaration of Ifa to the 401 Irumole when going to enter into a solid covenant with Orumila by the riverside. They were planning to start contribution. They were all advised to offer a bow. Only Orumila and Eshu complied. Genuine human beings are very scarce to find. Real human beings are very difficult. There are no human beings anymore. I entered into a covenant with Eshu. I entered into a covenant with Shango, but he betrayed me. Labambi was very busy slaughtering other people's animals. Genuine human beings are very difficult to find. Real human beings are very difficult. There are no human beings anymore. I had entered into a covenant with Eshu. I had earlier entered into a covenant with Ogun, but he betrayed me. Lakaye was busy slaughtering other people's dogs. Genuine human beings are very scarce to find. Real human beings are difficult. There are no human beings anymore. I entered into a covenant with Eshu. I had earlier entered into a covenant with Usanla, Obatala, but he betrayed me. Alabala was busy consuming other people's snails. Genuine human beings are scarce. Real human beings are difficult. There are no human beings anymore. I entered into a covenant with Eshu. I had earlier entered into a covenant with the 400 Irumole, but they betrayed me. They were all busy doing their own different businesses. Genuine human beings are really scarce. Real human beings are impossible. When there are no more human beings anymore, I entered into a covenant with Eshu Odara. Ashe. So, uh, when I think about this particular story, this verse, it comes down to a simple statement. Finding true friends is a difficult task, right? It is a difficult task. Here we have the situation of Orunmila, who's being treated poorly by the other Irumole. He simply wanted to have a celebration and come together with those folks. So we know the story. Let us think about ourselves. How many times have we been invited out and maybe not have shown up? How many times has someone said to us, hey, come on, let's meet, and then we cancel at the last minute? I think about myself. Some years ago, this particular situation, some years ago, a group of friends, wonderful folks, had come together and they said, hey guys, let's have a party. At this time, my wife was pregnant with our first child. She was tired. We were tired. I think there's this husband effect that, when my wife had her pregnancy, I had my sympathy pains pregnancy. And so every time she was tired, I was happy to lay down and relax with her. That was fine. But a group of friends had said, hey, let's get together. Let's have a party, and relax and hang out. And at this time, even the day of, was at the moment where I was like, looking at my wife, I was like, man, I'm tired. You tired? She's like, yeah, I'm tired. So maybe we should call them and let them know that maybe we might not make it. And so we did. Sent a little message out, said, hey, guys, we're feeling a little bit tired. We're not sure if we're going to make it. One of my buddies called and he says, hey, Anthony, come on out. We're going to have a good time. It's going to be super low key. We're just here at the house chilling. This family's here, this family, all the folks are here. So let's come on and hang out, come together. So, okay. Well, lo and behold, we get to the party and we recognize and realize as we were walking up to the door, it is a surprise baby shower for my wife and I. Could you believe it? How would we have looked if we skipped the party? I mean, I already felt guilty because we were trying to get out of it, right? But here we are. We have good friends who were looking out for us. Good friends who took the time to put together a party for us to celebrate the coming of our first child, to celebrate us, and it was an amazing party. First of all, I was so happy. I was so honored that I could have been there. But still, there was a part of me that felt super guilty because, I put myself, my wife, we put ourselves in the position of, kind of almost messing it up, right? How would they have felt if we decided to blow them off? That would have been terrible. Thank goodness we didn't. But we go through these human times in our lives where we are tired and we are blowing other people off, right? In order to be a good friend, we have to take a moment to stop, right? And say, let's not do that to others, because that in itself can kind of break down the relationship if we think about it, right? The more times that people invite you to be a part of something and you say no just because, right? Just because you want to stay home, watch TV, relax. It's not always good because it's hard to develop that relationship if you're always pushing people away or blowing people off. Maybe you make other plans to make up for it, especially if you're not feeling well. Nobody says you have to go. Nobody's trying to force you, but understand the consequence of the situation. That's probably what we should really be thinking about. This is what could happen. This is how my relationship with those folks can be broken down. if I approach it this way? Right. So I encourage us to think about those moments. And that was a real life situation for me. Um, and those folks are good friends, right? And the only good news is that even though we are all tired, all of us have a lot of kids now. I say a lot. Two feels like a lot. My friends have 3 kids. Other friends have another couple of kids, right? So when there's a lot of kids, we all, as parents, we know that that gets tiring. But at that time when we were young and still, not that I say that I'm old, but when we were high energy because we were sleeping a lot more with less kids, those are times that we could be celebrating each other and enjoying our times together, right? Building that relationship, creating that mutual affection. Let's go to another Odu. We're going to go to the Odu of Oyeku Ofun. Again, remember, we're talking about the idea of are we good friends? Honesty of thought is very rare. A benevolent person is rare to come by. When I have no one to discuss things with, I keep all my thoughts within. These were Ifa's declarations to Obaluaye when he was suffering from the inability to have confidants to speak with. Orumila responded that it is true. Olodumare sees our thoughts, and Ile, Mother Earth, recognizes the wicked. Those who do good, the heavens know who they are. Oh, shit. So I selected this particular verse um, in hopes to discuss the idea of honesty in actions, right? Honesty in the things that we do. Um, Honesty in action is a very important aspect of being a good friend. Will we do what we say we are going to do? Can be if we say, hey, would you come out to meet with us? And you say yes, then you show up, right? Honesty with your actions. Hey, can you help me with this one thing? And you show up to help. It's you being honest in your actions. To be a good friend, we need to be honest in our thoughts also, right? We don't want to surround ourselves with people who, let's say, make jokes at the expense of others. Honesty in our thoughts, honesty in our actions. When I watch young people today, and I'm sure at some point when I was young, I was probably a part of this. I'm not immune to it. But as we get older and we know better, this is when we have to make the changes. But when I watch a lot of young people now, because I'm a teacher, one of the challenges that I see is the idea of making fun of my friends or laughing at my friends' expense. What does that mean to a young child? What does that mean to an adult? I know personally at this age, I don't want to be around people who make fun of me for the joke. They can do that somewhere else, right? Why do I need to be the laughing matter of, I'm all about joking around, but I'm talking making fun of a person to where they feel singled out and they feel alone. That's a very different place to be, right? You're in a group of friends and people laugh and laugh, and somebody else joins the group and they point out this joke and they add more people laughing at you. While the person may have a smile on their face, one of the most disappointing things as a teacher, as an advisor of young students, as a mentor to students, is hearing how they had a really bad day because their friends were making fun of them all day. Honesty in our actions, honesty in our thoughts, right? We have to be that way with those who we consider our friends. It's not worth the joke. And that's a statement for our young people, really, right? Because I hope as we get older, we realize that we need to treat each other better. But I get myself concerned about the young folks who are constantly doing it to each other. The state of depression in young kids is the numbers are high. And so we have to avoid that situation, right? The Eromole, as in this particular verse, they're teaching us lessons. As it says about Obaluaye in the verse, when he was suffering from the inability to have confidants to speak with. This is a life lesson. The Eromole went through it. We as human beings go through it. Right? So how do we remedy that situation to make sure that, one, being a good friend, we're not putting other people in that place? And then we're not surrounding ourselves with people who put us in that place. Right? Make your circle a circle that you want to be a part of, not one that puts you in the middle. Right? Ashe. So let's go to another verse. This comes from the Odu of Ewori Bogbe. Ewori on the right and Ogbe on the left. Offend me and let me call your attention to it. This is the panacea of a good friendship. These were Ifa's declarations for Ewori, who will call attention to Ogbe to a particular issue. He was advised to offer a bow. He complied. So this particular verse, offend me and let me call your attention to it. To be a good friend, I think there is a need for us to be able to have an honest conversation at times, right? There is the need for us to be able to say, hey, this is bothering me. Can we talk about it and see if we can make it better? We should know not every relationship will be perfect. We've all experienced that. And if you've lived a life of perfect relationships, wow, it's congratulations. But not every relationship is perfect. It will be important for us to be honest when there is a challenge so that we can work through them. Ifa tells us that having a grudge is not good, especially when it is against people whom we care about. So we have to keep that in mind. At the same time, I want us to think about the idea of being a good friend, right? And when we hear the truth, we need to take it in and work through it. And I know some of you watching out there, when you hear the truth, it might make you upset. When you hear the truth, it'll put you in a place where, like, I don't need them in my life, and you push them away, right? You're at a point where anger comes quick, or you get heated, or not even if you're not angry, but you get like, who are you to tell me this? That's not being a good friend. We need to sometimes work through those challenging moments together. That's how we develop that relationships. That's how we are a good friend. We take it in, we hear what's being said, we listen, and then we respond honestly in conversation with each other. This isn't yelling. This isn't heated. This isn't fighting. But we have open moments of conversations with each other so that our friendship can continue to grow and grow and grow. That's it. Right? This discusses our conduct with everybody we come in contact with. Offend me and let me call your attention to it. This is the panacea of a good friendship. It's not about you yelling to get your point across, right? Say your point. Listen. Hear their point. Listen. Find a place of compromise, I hope. If not, come back to it later. These are all aspects of working on friendship, right? These are all different ways that we can approach our friendships with others. But know that when you find these difficult moments within your friendship, when you get past them, it's only going to make your friendship stronger. I promise. I promise. So let's go to another situation. Now you've been honest with your friend. So let's continue to what can happen on the other side. This comes from the Odu of Okamra Otura. The bald-headed man, the Awo of Egbaland. The man with sideburns, the Awo of Ijesa land. Any matter that defies a response, it is better to keep quiet. These were Ifa's declarations for Maureen Ewa when going to the house of his friend to succeed in a splendid manner. He was advised to offer a bow. He complied. There is no relative, neither is there any sibling. Let us offer the ebo of good neighborliness. Okay. Friendliness and good neighbor. So here we are. Previous verse, we discussed the idea of being honest and having the conversation about having the conversation and making the friendship better. Sometimes there will be matters where we may need to take a step back and not say everything we say, right? Ifa has both sides of the aspect because not every situation can fit into one bubble, right? Sometimes oversharing can be the breakdown of the relationship itself. And you say, well, what do you mean by oversharing? Okay, so my wife and I, we have friends. Our friends have children. We have children, right? Can you imagine, this is just something random, but can you imagine I get to their house, I see their children. Oh, see your children are dressed that way. Why would you put your kids in that color? It doesn't look right. My friends get offended. One, I hope I'm not thinking that. I don't believe I've ever thought that, but it's just a situation that I'm thinking of. Someone who is too honest about their opinion and that it matters about this other person's child, how they're dressed, on and so forth. To some, that can be very offensive, right? I don't need to have an opinion about how they're raising their child and how they're doing what they're doing over there. Right. And that's just a plain regular situation. Or why did you cut your hair this way? Or why did you get that? Whatever it may be. I'm sure we can think of many different situations where it would behoove us to kind of be like, take a step back. There's no need to cause a moment of anger or cause a moment of argument at that time. Right. Ifa is saying to us, in order to be a good friend, we have to have the sense to know when we need to have a serious conversation to better the relationship and when we need to take a step back and not cause grief. We need to understand that. All right. That to me is a part of being a good friend. But that not everything needs to be a fight is what I'm trying to say. Right. So that's another moment, the opposite of the previous situation. Let's go to our last Odu of the sermon today. And this comes from the Odu of Irete Meji. Irete Meji. Arobagedeba. He was the Awo who cast Ifa for Olaberinjo, the indigenous of Isanlu, and for Jegle, the indigenous of Otunmoba town, and for Okanlawon, the indigenous of Alatamobe Akoko land. They were advised to offer a bow for success and accomplishment. So here we have the story of someone that begins with someone named Olaberinjo. Olaberinjo came from Isanlu land. He had left his home to travel to Ado Ekiti. When he got to Ado Ekiti, he wanted to develop a business for himself. He wanted to thrive. He wanted to grow. In Ado Ekiti, he worked. He had met a friend who was a trader who said, hey, come on out. You can stay with me here in Ado Ekiti. And, we can kind of help each other go out, and I'll introduce you to some people and you'll find your place. Olaberinjo says, great. So he's hanging out with his friend in Ado Ekiti, but what seems to happen is that his friend's really busy in his work. He doesn't have time to sort of take Olaberinjo out to meet people. And so Olaberinjo found himself kind of in a dilemma. He didn't really have good work. He couldn't, make enough money to get out on his own. So he was in a place of challenge. Not to not to say that his friend was off-putting, but he didn't want to interrupt him. He was also being a good friend himself. He sees that he was busy, so he goes out. He goes out. He finds himself down by the riverside one day, and he ends up meeting someone named Jegwe. Jegwe came from the land of Otun Moba. And Jegwe's position was he also found himself in Ado Ekiti to settle. And he had heard at the time that Ado Ekiti was a growing place. And so he wanted to come and find business and do well for himself. But he wasn't having much success either. Right. So Olabarinjo and Jegwe found themselves, they had something in common, a bond that brought them together. And they said, hey, you know what? Let's just, you want to hang out? Let's go get something to eat. And as we say in modern times, you want to go grab a coffee and let's just talk about our time, see if we can bounce ideas off each other, find ourselves back in success. Right. And they said, okay. All right. So they decided to be friends and connect and keep up with each other. Obviously, they didn't have cell phones to call, so they would meet up and discuss. So a few weeks go by, and these two friends had met another person named Okan Lawon. Okan Lawon was from the area of Alata Mode Akoko. He came to Ado Ekiti to begin a new life, to find more work. Again, just like the others, he had heard it was a booming place. This is people kept telling me he'd make it here, and so he came here to find success. And he meets Olabarinjo and Jegwe, and he sees that they're going through the same challenges. And they all laughed about it. And Jug said, "Man, can you believe this place? We get here, and everybody says it's amazing, and it feels very difficult." So these three friends, with this bond that they had found that they had, they became inseparable. So much so that they were always around town together. And as people began to know them, they began to see that they were always together. It was as if the whole town of Ado Ekiti says, there they are, the three friends, Olabarinjo, Jegwe, and Okan Lawon, right? So they found themselves together. So at one point, they decided to sit down and say to themselves, okay, what are we good at? Maybe we can come together and figure out how we can support each other, right? Like, what are you good at, Olabarinjo? And Olabarinjo says, well, I'm good at hunting. I'm good at hunting, finding good prey, going on hunting expeditions. And they said, oh, that sounds wonderful. So Jegwe says, well, I'm good at being a farmer. I know how to raise the plants. I know the good time of year to do what we need to do. Right. And Okan Lawon says, oh, that's amazing, guys, because you know what? I'm a good trader. I'm a good seller at the market. So if you go out on your hunting expeditions and you create the plants and foods, the produce that we need, I can go to the market and sell. Awesome. They got their plans together. They said, okay, now we have a plan, right? What is the need we have? We need work. We need something. Here's how we can do it together as friends and help each other succeed and help lift each other up. So on the first day, they decided to bring whatever their resources they had together and decided to go out and get locally made weapons for Olabarinjo, right? And wanted him to go out hunting. So they got all the items, guns, gunpowder, whatever he needed to go and start his hunting quest. For Jegwe, they got him all of his farming tools, the cutlasses, the hoes, the knives, whatever he needed to prepare his produce, right? And they told Okan Lawon to be in charge of the selling of all of the stuff. So you see how it's coming together. The first day that Olabarinjo goes out into the forest for hunting, he came back with 2 great-sized antelopes and 1 grass cutter. They cooked the grass cutter for food and sold the 2 antelopes. The sale convinced the other 2 friends that Okan Lawon was actually indeed a fantastic seller and a hard bargainer, to get the most money that he could for the items. With the initial progress, that they were having, Olabarinjo was still saying, you know what, guys, we can do better. right? And so Olabarinjo decides to go to the Babala that was mentioned, Aro Gede Ba, the best Babala on Ado Ekiti at the time. And they go to get Ifa consultation. Yawo told Olabarinjo, okay, reads them. He says, okay, here's the ebo that you need to offer. Then he explained to him that his success was coming. He was going to do really well in hunting. He was going to come back with several items, enough for great success. And it was more important that for everything that they were doing, that they offer the proper ebo, not only for him, but for the others, in order for that they'll be able to have success in produce and success in the market. Olabarinjo was like, wow, okay. So he offers his ebo and he moves on. So Olabarinjo, as he moves on, he starts to see that things are getting better. He's bringing in really good items, really good things to be sold at the market. But now here's the challenge. Okan Lawon started having issues at the market. He wasn't being able to sell things. He was kind of making customers upset with his pushiness. And like, no, I have the better deal. Don't go over there. I got the better deal. And so he was being very pushy with the business people. And so Olabarinjo says, hey, listen, we need to go to Ifa consultation. We need to make sure that we get everything checked out. And so as they go for Ifa consultation, they offer the ebo, and success starts to happen for all of them. Jegwe is having great success with his produce. Olabarinjo is having great success at selling. All of the things that they are looking for are coming to the height of what Ifa was telling them. They started to have their families, all they needed to do. And then eventually, when they were making so much money and found themselves in such a good place, they eventually had left and returned to their homelands. Now, this particular story is a story about friends in support of each other, right? Friends in support of each other. Ifa says that we should seek the support of our friends, and our friends should seek the support of us, right? If we have friends that could be in support of each other business-wise, that's wonderful. If we can have friends that are in support of each other family-wise, that is wonderful. If we can have friends in support of each other in so many different aspects, that is wonderful, right? This is what Ifa wants for us. It's not all the time, right? That's why we know that Ifa is a place of divination or practice of divination, so we can understand how it works for our situation. But again, my reason for choosing this particular story for today's lesson is that it's important for us to understand that we can have friends who are supportive of us. And when we have our friends come together through Ifa, it is even better, right? We're now looking at Ifa lifting all of us up together so that we can all see success in our lives. Like, one of my favorite things to do, as far as supporting each other, is to have Itadogun together, right? That is a real situation where Ifa and Orisha people can come together for Itadogun. We offer Ebo together. We cast Ifa together. We see what Ifa has to say for all of us at that time together. That is the importance of Itadogun, right? I would love to have all of the members of the temple come to my home so that we can discuss and identify where we have challenges and speak it together. Because Ifa is a communal event, right? We can hear interpretations from all of the different awos to make the conversation a fruitful one for all of us, right? And those of you that don't know what Itadogun is, it is the 17th day divination for the community, right? And so the awos really should be coming together to discuss the interpretations of the Odu as they see fit, right? And that way we're working with Ifa in support of each other. So let me bring it back together. Let's think about what Ifa says when we have to think about the idea of being good friends, right? Ifa says, one, finding true friends will be difficult. So understand that if at this moment in life you're not connected with friends, it's okay. But it should be something that we work on, right? Find our connection, find folks who we can have around us who can uplift us and we can uplift them. Two, Ifa says we should be honest in our actions and working towards being a good friend. Right? What do we do? Are we saying we're going to be there for folks? Are we going to show up when we say we want to show up, right? Ifa says don't hold grudges against those who we consider our friends. Move on, work through the challenges so that you can continue to be supportive of each other. And then Ifa says, be supportive of our friends and have friends who are supportive of us. That's a two-way win, right? They win, we win. We're all supporting each other. So with those lessons, let us understand that we have the ability to be good friends with the lessons that we find. So let us be good friends to those who are around us. Ashe. Again, thank you for joining me for today's Ifa Temple service. Are we good friends? I encourage you to please reach out and join me for live Ifa Temple service. Let us come together and be friends together through Ifa. Let us support each other, right? One of the things I would love to do on the Ifa Temple service is to offer Obi and Orobo, propitiate Ifa, propitiate Eshu, so that we are getting information in support of each other, right? If we do that together, that develops our relationship with Ifa and each other. Right, let's come and celebrate Itadogun. I would love to have Itadogun where we all come together for that. That process is open to anyone. You can come as the messages are chanted and given. Then we can give our interpretations to better support each other during that time. Right, and then you're saying to yourself, how do I find out about when these things are happening or what's going on in the temple? Great question. Just yesterday, I started a WhatsApp community. There are different groups within the community. We have the group, which is just an open Ifa Q&A. That group is for everybody. You come in, you ask questions. You can come and go as you wish. With any group, you have to request to enter, but no one is turned down. You come in and you can find out information, chat with us, whatever it may be. Also, we are working on having other groups where in that area, I can make announcements about the Itadogun. I can make announcements about temple service. Because really at my home, I can fit maybe up to 10 people. But once we start having more and more people attend, then we can start to find other spaces, or folks can host at their homes too, or somewhere else. So those are all things that we can start to think about. But what I want for all of us is to come together so that we can be supportive as friends of Ifa together. That's my intention for Okanran Seventh-day Temple of Miami. So as we go into our second year, I look forward to having celebrations together, learning about Ifa together, and developing our practice, because that's really what it's about. Thank you for joining me this morning. I hope you have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of your week. Aboru, aboye, aboshishio boato.